Okay, so on the back of Clare's disappointing 10-point defeat to Limerick in the Munster Senior Hurling Championship, we're going to review and reflect on that contest now with a Clare Echo video special. And we're delighted to be joined by Darach Honan, Clare Echo columnist and All-Ireland Senior Hurling winner in 2013. We have Deirdre Murphy, former All-Ireland winning Clare Junior captain, and Niall O'Connor, ex-Clare minor hurling coach and former member of the Clare backroom team. So first of all, guys, thanks very much for joining us.
No matter.
No problem.
And just to begin, I suppose we had Clare on level terms at half time in yesterday's game with Limerick, but ended up losing by 10 points, as I said. So where do you think it went wrong yesterday for Clare?
Yeah, I suppose it was a great start to the game. People heading into the game probably weren't too optimistic, and the first half probably gave everyone watching a big lift. Clare came out, and especially, I suppose, Tony most notably came out and put on a really good performance. It was looking pretty good at half time. But I suppose really Limerick showed their class and pulled away, and the result for a finish was probably what people were expecting, even though we had that half an hour, first 35 minutes of hope. It was kind of a bit inevitable towards the end that they were going to run out handy enough with winners.
And Deirdre, what was, I suppose, your own view on where it kind of slipped away from Clare?
Yeah, I suppose probably, you'd be so kind of uplifted at half time and the way they had fought back into the game, and again after Ryan Taylor's goal back to a point. But I suppose probably the scores were coming easier all the time for Limerick. But I just thought after half time it was if their half back line had just thrown the shackles off and they attacked every ball and won loads of possession. Either were delivering good ball themselves or popping it off to the half forward line that were lying a good bit deeper than they had against the wind. So it made it very hard for us to defend, I suppose. And, I suppose the level of effort it took maybe from us to be level at half time, we probably underestimated the influence of the wind then too, as supporters watching.
And Niall, what was your take on it?
Yeah, I come in just on what Deirdre was saying there. A big thing for me was I felt Clare's half-back line stood firm, maybe 55, 60 yards from our goal, and let Kyle Hayes, Morrissey and obviously Hager to get out the field. And it created an 8v5 middle third battle, and I thought that's where Limerick got a lot of their scores. As Deirdre said, their half-back line came into it. But that resulted in Limerick's half-forward line picking ball up around the middle of the field on their own, as Clare's half-back line had obviously they were obviously holding firm, which meant probably no chance of goals being conceded, but it resulted in Limerick's half-forward line getting a lot of possession and scoring a lot of scores from outfield. I think they contributed 12 points from Limerick's half-forward line. I'd say a lot of those 12 points were a good 60 yards out the field, which meant concurred what Deirdre was saying.
And I suppose
just think on that actually. The issue, as far as I saw, really was arising from our puckouts, where in the first half our puckout was landing, 30 yards from the Limerick goal. In the second half, that puckout was only landing maybe 60 yards. The fitness level of that Limerick half-forward line is incredible. Like, they were able to be in their own half-back line as the ball was dropping, and they'd win it and work it out. And by the time they were either free, as Niall says, kind of in the middle of the park because our lads were holding back. But so they either had a free shot and goal, which they were able to puck over the bar, but their striking is so good they were able to pick out the lads inside as well. And from a puck out that was landing in the half back line, if the ball was delivered to the full forward line, they were able to get up and support as well. So that, in fairness to that Limerick half forward line, they're probably the best in the country, and they showed that really.
And Niall, I suppose on the puckouts, I think overall Clare won less than 50% of their own puckouts. So how significant that tie in with the point Darach is just making there?
I put it this way, I would see the next day Tipperary will vary it up between long and short. They'll play a game of chess with Kylie and Connacht, and they'll hope to suck Limerick back up the field, whereas Clare were happy enough to go along. Like, I think Clare's 37 Clare's 50 puckouts, we went long 37 out of 50 puckouts. Like, it was huge. I wouldn't see Tipperary doing that the next day, because I think that's why Limerick's half-forward line gambled. They were nearly out the field as Aver was pucking the ball, whereas you'll see the next day now, Tipperary will only be gambling late, if that makes sense. And so, like, we went long just after half time, which we've alluded to already. I think we went long the first 8 puckouts, or definitely 8 of the 9 first puckouts, and that's where a lot of the scores came from, So I don't see Tip doing that the next day, and that's where I thought we fell short of.
Niall, do you think, like, I just watching at home, which is often different, and I there, but I thought the ref was very hard on him, Quilling in the early moments. Like, he pulled him up for quick puck outs several times when you're a debutant and your first day out, and suppose he had got them out quick, and you'd wonder, was that the strategy to try and go short, to try and pick people out with quick puck outs, and then that had to be abandoned when the ref called him up the second or third time on it?
It's worth considering, definitely, Deirdre, but I suppose from a goalkeeper's perspective, and Aver would be superb at the short puckouts as well as the long ones, and he was pulled up, but they were just after scores, and I suppose the rule of thumb with the referees is if there's a point scored, give them the chance to put it, and I suppose that it goes, there was very few wides yesterday. It was actually, scoring chances, most went over, so maybe. But I suppose maybe what I'm just saying is that maybe for 3 or 4 puckouts, he could have hit Stephen or Shayna or Patrick to suck Limerick back up the field, which he's well capable of. But obviously the tactic was to go along. And to be fair, in the middle of the second half, it started to work when Shane O'Donnell came out and Shanahan a few times. Clare did start to win a few puckouts. So it might be something that will work going forward if we can get the likes of Shane out the field,
Yeah, I think Limerick, it was interesting watching Limerick set up for their own puck out to give themselves the short option. And I only saw this on TV, but I'm sure it was more obvious to you below, where they had 4 across their own 21 at times. And that forces the Clare lads to either push up or else they were able to pick them out. And like Deirdre made a good point there that Aver was looking for those short ones quick. But once the play was stopped and Limerick had a chance to set up, they were able to close them off short. So it's probably something for Brian and the lads to look at. How are we going to be able to give ourselves the option to hit them short if we need to? Because Limerick, in a standard setup, 3 across the back, 3 across the half-back line, it's probably that bit easier to cut off those options. So they will have to look at engineering. How can we hit these ones shorter other than just hitting it as quick as I possibly can in the field.
I think it's worth noting that Aver sitting down on probably the best half back line and middle sector in Ireland at the moment. So a baptism of fire next day or yesterday, but there'll be no fear of him going forward. It's top class goalie, So hopefully. It might work the next day, what we did yesterday.
Yeah, well, I think I'd be referring more to the setup of the lads out the field than Aver's. Aver, like you said, Aver's well put the ball out. But just in terms of setting things up in order to give them the options, that's where they'll have to look at improving things.
And I suppose one of the big talking points, or one of the big moments of praise that you'd give to Brian Lohan, was the positioning of Tony Kelly, who got 17 points over the hour, 8 of which in play. And interestingly enough, in Clare's last 3 competitive championship games with Limerick, Tony got 6 points across all 3 games. So he even outscored that yesterday. So Darach, to go to you, is that a huge plus for Brian Lohan? Has he found the best position for Tony Kelly?
Yeah, well, I thought watching Tony yesterday, I think it's probably the best game I've ever seen him play, and he was a joy to watch. It was absolutely spectacular performance from him. It was interesting to contrast Tony's game against Limerick last year, where he was lined out centre forward and then switched to midfield, but he did most of his hurling kind of in the half back line that day, and it didn't really work out for him. The lads made the move then the following day against Cork to put him in corner forward, and I remember he had a goal in 3 in the first half nearly, I think it was around that, and he really got things going. Yesterday was the same. He's such a threat when he's the ball in his hand. He can score from anywhere, but he's more likely to get him over the bar if he's inside 50 metres, 60 metres. And anytime that we won primary possession in the forwards, he was there as an option off the shoulder. And as soon as he was found, and anytime he was found, it was just gone over the bar. that's where he needs to do his hurling closer to goal. And I suppose especially when you're losing off the team, the likes of John and Peter from last year, you need that scoring threat, which Tony is by far the biggest scoring threat that we have on the team. And Brian does deserve credit, I think, for lining up in the forwards, because I think he put him in on Barry Nash initially. And obviously Barry Nash is more renowned as a forward himself. So to get the job of Mark and Tony at cornerback was probably a daunting one. And Brian did identify that as an area that we could make a bit of hay, and I think it did work to that extent.
And Deirdre, do you think Tony's performance from Clare games you've seen down through the years, was it the greatest performance on a Clare, from a person on a Clare team that didn't come out on top?
I suppose, yeah, like it was, you know, the amount of anticipation and just wanting to take responsibility to be in those positions to take the passes, and he caught puck out as well in the first half, which maybe he wouldn't be renowned for Páraic. Yeah, I thought it was just such a performance of skill and defiance kind of wrapped up in each other. But I suppose we won the day in both the draw and the replayed game, but particularly the replayed All-Ireland that we won. I think at critical times as well, he just stepped out 70, 75 yards out and nailed scored. That day that probably won him the hurler of the year and young hurler of the year at the time. So it's tricky on him. I think sometimes in previous years, if you put somebody to mark Tony Kelly, to follow him at the same level of fitness as him and then man mark you, then maybe a lot of those ones where you're popping off the shoulder and taking the pass are much harder to be available for. So he was incredible yesterday, and I suppose it's credit too to his teammates who found him. I think maybe 6 of his 8 scores from play were you know, passed to him by his teammates as well.
And Niall, were you surprised with the lack of support Tony had? Because if you took him out of the picture, as Anthony Daly wrote in the Examiner on Monday, you were kind of looking at a hammering for Clare.
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose it was a one-man band in terms of scoring at times. I suppose I just felt we didn't get enough ball into Shane. Shane was inside with Ryan. Like Ryan got 1-1, worked really hard, and Shane and outside of Tony in the forward line, I thought those two were the best of the forwards. Like David was centre forward. Probably the ball that was going down on top of the half forward line didn't suit him, but yeah, there was very little support in terms of scoring threat from for Tony. But like you take John Conlon, Peter out of any team in Ireland, and it's going to be hard to get that up, especially in one game, Páraic. You know, like whereas maybe the next day a few small tweaks with maybe David Fitz, David McInerney, David Reedy could mean that Tony will have a lot more support, you know, and they're the learnings that will come from tomorrow's game. And who knows, going through the back door could actually suit this Clare team, John. There's a lot of new players. There's a lot of players that haven't played that many minutes over the last couple of years. And going through the back door might actually suit Clare, you know, especially with the new manager. I remember Dalo's first year, definitely first and second year, went through the back door and went on good runs. So there's nothing to say why this Clare team can't do the same, you know.
And Darach, just on the point Niall made there about supply of ball into the forwards, it seemed to be that the type of ball Shane O'Donnell was getting was more of a high ball than a low ball that he could snatch in the hand and take on the man. Were you surprised at that?
Yeah, like I mean, they were kind of living off scraps, in fairness, Shane and Ryan in the corner, and I actually thought they did okay for what they for the sort of ball they were getting. Like Shane was probably fouled 2 or 3 times, and I know he gave a few of the passes to Tony for his points, and Ryan of course got the 1-1. But such was the dominance, I suppose, of the Limerick half back line and Limerick half forward line, that ball coming in wasn't the best. I suppose what we'll need more from really is for our half forward line to be supplying better ball into our inside line, because they were living off scraps, and they'll have to, like Shane is a very, very dangerous player. Ryan took the scores very well, so we do need to get them more involved to try and ease the burden on Tony and not to be as reliant on him.
I think that fact, sorry Páraic, that fact that or what Darach is touching on there makes Tony's performance yesterday even more incredible. Like Clare forwards feeding off scraps yesterday, and he got 7 or 8 points in play. Like, it was incredible.
Yeah. And Deirdre, just to come to you, like we've mentioned Tony Kelly, but are there other aspects of the performance yesterday that you'd have identified as big strengths for Clare?
Well, I suppose it's, you know, the debutants I thought all did well, or the less experienced players, you know. Like I don't think you could say that any fella that went out completely fell down, or, you know, Stephen O'Halloran, Ava Quilligan, Ryan, Rory Hayes, especially I thought tore into a lot of things and cleared a lot of ball. You know, no goal conceded as well is a big one, because if you look at the 36 points, and you know, as Niall referred to, maybe the amount of scoring half hour line were able to take, maybe the sacrifice that was made there to hold, but there was probably 6 or 7 unforced errors there, where Patrick O'Connor, he went to a hand pass, he got blocked down. I think one of Ava's puck outs, I think Shayna had a clearance in the second half. There was a couple of Jack probably regrets some of the soft frees. Suddenly that's bringing it back by 6 or 7 points, and you still haven't your goal conceded. And I think for me that was a huge thing that Limerick had over Clare, was that composure, that you couldn't question it, and you would have to be happy with the fight and the spirit and the character, particularly at the 2 times Limerick looked like they were going to pull away and we closed it back. We just couldn't do it a third time. But I thought that, yeah, there was a bit of resolve. It's just that kind of composure that the likes of Garrod showed all through, and probably Kyle Hayes in the second half, after playing poorly in the first half even, that they just never took the wrong option, where maybe in addition to those unforced errors, there was probably a few passes in the middle third that went astray as well, that suddenly, if some of those had been held on to, it would be a much more even game without making things much different at all, you know.
And Darach, what's the most pressing aspect from Sunday's defeat that Brian Lohan needs to work on for the qualifiers?
Well, I think we've probably touched on it already, but I think the puckouts is the most pressing aspect. That gave them the platform to dominate, and that's definitely what I would be addressing. Number one, how do we work short ones if we need to, and if we're going longer, how can we get more men around the ball when it's breaking? Because we're out. That's definitely what I'd be addressing, number one. But just to go back to what Deirdre was saying there, I thought Limerick's composure was excellent. Like, they looked so comfortable on the ball, but mentally they were that bit sharper as well. They got 3 points from quick sidelines that were taken. 2 were hit to an unmarked man. Like, for a sideline cut, you when you're defending a sideline cut, you have the extra man. So how can then you leave someone unmarked? That happened 3 times for 3 points. And then I also thought we coughed up a few soft scores in the first half in terms of frees. We fouled an awful lot in the first half. When we were playing good hurling and on top, we were still keeping them in the game when they weren't going great. And then as soon as they did start to turn it on, they pulled away. So that would be definitely another area to address. We were too quick to foul. And I wonder, is that actually a result of no crowd as well, sometimes, where a foul is nearly more obvious than when there's 10,000 Clare people shouting at the ref that there was no free, like, but that might have been a contributing factor as well.
And Niall, on the impact, I suppose, of the lack of crowds, what's your thoughts on it? Is it leading to more unforced errors and maybe those frees kind of getting away, as Darach says?
I'm not sure about the unforced errors. I just think they're part and parcel of any game, but I suppose there are trends starting to emerge after this weekend. You know, there are huge scores after being put up, like even by the 2 losers in this weekend, Dublin, or Laois and Clare, 123 from Clare, 23 points from Laois. And you'd have to say both teams were possibly well beaten for a finish and still put up good scores. The point I'm making is, I think you'll see over the next couple. You'll know over the next couple of weeks what trends emerge, but it's looking like that it's easier to pick off points with the no crowds, less pressure, especially from in the scoring stakes anyway, Paddy.
And Deirdre, like, obviously Clare, when they're playing inter-county challenge games, it's behind closed doors in comparison to maybe if we were playing a club championship behind closed doors. So do you think there is much of an impact on games having no crowds for the players?
It might be a bad one to ask. I probably didn't play into I don't know the difference, but I suppose what it might mean, you know, and it might be attributing to what Niall mentioned there, is the fact that, you know, this whole kind of gladiatorial atmosphere when the crowd is nearly in on top of you and the roar, the pitch probably feels a bit bigger now than it would, you know, and people are exploiting every inch of it. I wonder, I don't really know, but, you know, some players feed off that frenzy and that atmosphere and things, and it'll probably mean that some of those might play less well, or, you know, others who might have been intimidated by that might shine now. Like, it just, if you think of two from Clare and Limerick, probably Sean Finn and David McInerney totally kind of seem to absolutely revel in, you know, just being part of that arena, let's say. And, you know, probably it was a bigger plus for Limerick than for Clare. Will O'Donoghue and David probably cancelled each other out more or less, and that was probably a big result for Limerick. And, you know, I don't think Sean Finn, he didn't play a bad game by any standards, but he wasn't his swashbuckling self either. And I wonder, is that a little bit as much down to the personality of the player, or are the stakes just as high as the championship goes on? Tip got an awful hammer from Limerick last year as well. They went down to win the All-Ireland. So maybe teams do figure things out as we go. It'll be really interesting, but watching it, it definitely, I suppose, took from it, certainly.
And Darach, just on, I suppose, figuring out things and resetting, Limerick at half time, obviously they went on to get five or 6 points on the trot straight away on the restart, but just how big a factor is the involvement of Paul Kinnerk, Angus O'Brien and Alan Cunningham, just in their inside knowledge on the Clare players?
Yeah, well, I mean, just to have them involved, they're such good, they've such good hurling brains. To have them in Limerick is a huge plus for them. I think it's an awful shame that we weren't able to hold on to them in Clare, or to be able to create an atmosphere in Clare where they wanted to stay in Clare. And that's probably a failing that of our setups that we'll have to look at if we're going to, I suppose, address our decline over at the moment. But definitely, like, they're really good, and then they also have this additional water break where they can come in and give instruction and have those guys. They're such good guys to analyse a game in the running, that for them to have an additional period to talk through with their players what they want them to do or any adjustments they make, that's a big plus for them as well.
And Deirdre, just on, I suppose, atmosphere that Darach talks about, obviously you were involved in the ULGA side of things, and we've seen the dominance UL have had at Fitzgibbon Cup and Ashburn Cup. So how do you go about maybe establishing an atmosphere where you get the best people involved?
Well, I suppose, you know, I was very lucky. There was a lot of good people, and we were lucky to get a lot of good people in. So I think it's very much a collective thing that, I suppose, and maybe, you know, to get the top people involved, senior inter-county hurling is, I suppose, a big carrot. So maybe it's not always possible to keep the best people in your county, but I suppose when you look there, university is a little bit different because it's often easy to attract the good people because it's a shorter season and it's often a Monday to Thursday gig, a couple of weekends there, you know, around Christmas and things. But like, if you're looking at Kilkenny and Kerry, they seem to be the template. Like, they never seem to lose anyone they can afford to lose, and unless it's to send them out to get a bit of experience, if you're looking at Michael Fennelly and Eddie Brennan at the moment. But I suppose resources is an issue, and, you know, having that sense of prestige, or, you know, maybe that's not there in Clare at the moment. It's hard, you know, that I'm sure anyone that's involved with a Clare team underage up at the moment, they're giving everything they have. But certainly Alan Cunningham and Angus O'Brien are two Clare natives that, I mean, any team would be lucky to have. And you talk Sarah Lyons, James O'Connor, that there's many more that, you know, would have a huge lot to offer, and at various stages have given their time. But I suppose you have to have, I suppose, a sense that everyone's in it together. And maybe that's the one thing that I could feel that I could point out well, is that I probably inherited quite a fractured setup with, you know, maybe many teams feeling that there was only one show in town and everyone else was under-resourced or not prioritised. And, you know, once everyone came in together, coaches, etc., there was a huge camaraderie between everyone. And you'd see Liam Kearns at the men's matches, you'd see him giving a hand with the ladies football team as well, that kind of stuff. Brian, I suppose, was driving that club before I ever came there in terms of fundraising and trying to make things better. So I suppose that collective sense of everyone going in the same direction is probably what Cork have at the moment, actually, that maybe you could say they didn't previously have. There's a real sense there now that in Cork, the rising tide is lifting all boats, and that they have brought people back into the fold. So I suppose it's certainly hard to point at the answers, but I think that kind of sense that everyone is in it together is a starting point that's absolutely required.
Niall, obviously, of everyone involved in this, you have been the most recent involvement with an underage county side in Clare. So do you feel that there is a bit of a gulf, that Clare are a small bit behind other counties in Munster especially?
Yeah, I would, in terms of resources and that. But what I would say is the people are in the county. There's no doubt about that. But we just don't seem to be able to get. And one of them is here with us today. The likes of Darach, the likes of maybe Gilly, the likes of Deirdre touched on Jamesy, and these people into county underage teams. You know, like, I don't think I have the adequate experience just yet to be at that level. But that's the hand I was dealt with this year. The same as Oisin O'Brien is a bit inexperienced, and he'd openly tell you that. The point I'm making is we have to find out why the people that have been successful in 2013, 95, 97, maybe 2013 more so, aren't getting involved. What the reasons are for that, because they're the guys that have seen. So the game has changed, Paddy, even since 95 to 2013. There's no doubt about that. So it may be a mixture of both, and I suppose we need to look and see why these guys aren't getting involved. And I suppose in this together, as Deirdre briefly mentioned there, is probably we need to be in it together going forward, because otherwise, you know, it's 5 or 6 years now since our under 21s have won a game. You know, our minors haven't been that competitive over the last couple of years either. You know, we have to sit back and see what's going on. But going back down the years, then you have Kieran McDermott doing savage work and Donald Maloney, but they need to be complemented with even more guys when it comes up to minor 21 senior. You know, so there definitely needs to be looked at. You know, going forward.
And Darach, I suppose to maybe put you on the spot, seeing as Niall has mentioned you there, would you have an appetite to maybe get involved with underage teams in Clare, or is there something holding you back maybe?
Yeah, no, I'm sure it's something I would get involved with in the future. I was doing my own local team this year, but yeah, it's probably something I will look at. But I suppose just to touch on things we need to improve structurally, like if you compare the resources we have to the likes of Tipperary, Limerick, Cork, we're way behind. See, even Wexford appointed a commercial manager in Martin, and he brought in Zurich as a sponsor, and they're making great strides there. I suppose we need to be an awful lot more progressive in terms of how we finance our teams, how we develop facilities, and how we then keep people on board. You know, Cork, Deirdre touched on Cork, now having a good setup at underage, and they've brought in big names with all their underage teams, and their schools teams are doing well and everything's looking good. And they had a regime change, I suppose, recently under Frank Murphy, and now there's a new girl gone in there, and she seems to be doing a great job. So maybe things need to be shaken up a bit in Clare.
And guys, before we let you go, qualifiers lay ahead obviously for Clare. Deirdre, do you think there is strong possibility for Clare to revive their season and go on a strong qualifier run and hopefully push into the knockout stages of the All-Ireland?
Absolutely. I mean, it's only 2 years being All-Ireland final, and you know, a lot is true about the players that we were missing, but I suppose equally, you know, to be a little bit even-handed now, I think it's very important that the players don't lose confidence, because often you can see that with teams that are not very experienced, that one bad day can lead to a second bad day, where really, you know, there were a lot of positives to take, and you know, I suppose you can't beat experience. Like even Cathal Malone yesterday, I think that the point he scored from play in the first half and the defiance he's shown this in the game yesterday, or you know, played very well last year when things weren't going well for Clare, that couldn't necessarily have been said that he was at that level 3 or 4 years ago. I mean, he's shown huge desire to develop himself into that type of player, and you're probably looking at the likes of David Fitzgerald, Diarmuid Ryan, a load of the debutants, Stephen O'Halloran, Sheena, even, a lot of those are around a long time. To be definite starters or to get, there's nothing like games to give you that. And I suppose the big task for the management is for every individual to feel the confidence that, no, I can be better again the next day, and that we will go forward. And some of that is brought in the structure and the change of plans, like that Darach has mentioned, but a lot of it is being even-handed enough to know that we lost by 10 points to All-Ireland, to recent All-Ireland winners, double league champions, and Tipperary still turned their season around last year. And I think maybe everyone in Clare has a little bit of, I suppose, that atmosphere. When I think the county where we don't win all the time, where a little bit everything is very bad or it's very good, but to be as even-handed as possible, I think sometimes is more useful. And you'll often hear in Tipper, to say, we're missing one or two. And I suppose really at the moment we are missing one or two to be really up there with the top players. But if these guys can progress and if they can have a positive season in the qualifiers, you don't know where that will be. In All-Ireland semi-final, it would not be considered a bad year, and you have players the likes of Shane Meehan, the likes of Cian Galvin. You wouldn't feel things moving in the positive direction very quickly if this year could be considered, I suppose, progress in the end.
Darach, can you see us getting a bit of progress from the 2020 campaign, as difficult and all as it has been for Brian Lohan and his management team?
Yeah, I mean, there still is a good team there. We topped our division in the league, and we were in the league final for a reason yesterday, so we can be competitive. Like Deirdre pointed out, and she's right, Limerick they're the top team in the country at the moment, and well, they gave us a clipping yesterday. There's definitely areas of that Clare performance where you can improve things and address things to make our performance next day better. So there's no reason why we can't improve, and hopefully if we can get a run of games in the qualifiers, and like you say, we can be competitive with anyone. So let's hope that it's pick up from here.
And Niall, do you share that optimism as well?
Yeah, I think qualifier. To be honest, I think qualifiers could be the route that this Clare team needs to go this year. It's the same format as it was in 2013. It mightn't necessarily mean that that's the end result, but I think we'll get if we can get more minutes into guys, it could get a bit of momentum behind us. As I said earlier on, a few changes here and there, even just positional wise, could mean a lot for Clare. A few changes with Davy Fitz, maybe Shane, David Reedy, trying to get David McInerney into a game, because David McInerney is a top class player and has a lot more to offer than happened yesterday, and if you could test the waters with, say, a Leash or someone like that again, and maybe bring in even Cian Galvin, or I know they're on the panel, maybe Mark Rogers, and give them a few minutes, give them a taste. You never know what, there could be a lot to come out of 2020 just yet,
And I could be wrong, but I don't think we're able to play Cian Galvin or Shane Meehan this year, just from being minor. But you're right. I think Mark Rogers, Paddy Donnellan, and all these new guys are well able and eligible to play. But that's where we're going to leave it for today. Many thanks to Darach Honan, Deirdre Murphy and Niall O'Connor for their insight and analysis, and hopefully we'll be back at some stage in the next couple of weeks reviewing and dissecting more GAA action. So thanks very much to the three.